Row 4, please, Ingrid.
Hello, I'm Julie. It's very motivating for me to listen and learn from you, and you look so passionate about what you're doing and about your work. My question to you is like more in the daily work. What motivates you the most in your daily work?
What?
What motivates you?
Motivates me?
Yeah.
You know, the hope that I can help somebody solve a problem or alleviate suffering or find a way to a better life. I mean, I get just as motivated by, you know, trying to connect up somebody after the earthquake in Haiti with their relatives who were looking for them, and we put together a cell phone network to be able to reconnect people, as I do trying to you know, push forward on solving issues arising out of the Arab awakening or the violence in Central America or all the other issues that I work on every day. So it's both the, you know, the big picture issues that we work on and try to make progress on, but what you need when you're working on what often are intractable problems are some of the day-to-day successes that will never make headlines, but which are, you know, get gratifying. And you know, because in the position you're in, you can make things happen. So that's very motivating to me.
Let's go over here, please.
My name is Ina. I have a question about being a woman in the highest level of foreign policy. Do you believe that it changes foreign policy outcomes when there are more women around the negotiating tables? And if so, how?
I've thought a lot about that, and I don't know that there's any empirical evidence that would prove that, but I certainly feel it. You know, most of the time, I'm the only woman at the negotiating table. And I do try to raise issues, and I always talk about women's rights, and I always tell every audience and every male leader I'm with, well, you knew I was going to say this, but what is this going to mean for women and for children? And when I work with other high-level women in international affairs, you know, like the High Representative of the European Union, Cathy Ashton, there's a shorthand, in a way, as to what we're trying to achieve and how we can perhaps work together to do that. I also am a very strong believer that the women I know who have achieved the head of state or head of government generally, not always, but generally, you know, will be more responsive to a lot of the human needs. When my friend Ellen Johnson Sirleaf became president of Liberia and inherited a country ruined by horrific civil war and warlordism, she was elected because the market women in the country, Christian and Muslim alike, said enough of war and literally forced the men to the negotiating table. And there's a wonderful documentary about this called Pray the Devil Back to Hell, if you can pull it up on the internet, because it was a perfect example of women saying enough. Or when there was a recent negotiation over how to end the long conflict in Darfur, the men in the room spent days arguing over who would get territory around a certain river. And a woman outside the door said, that river's been dry for years. Because it wasn't men that went looking for water, it was women. And so there are so many insights that I view as coming from practical, everyday experience. That, you know, men bring their own, but women bring our own. And I don't see how we can make the best decisions unless there is literally a meeting of the minds, which is why I really welcome more women involved in these discussions. And I think the substance is more likely to reflect the everyday needs of the people who are most at risk in the resolution of any kind of dispute.
Yeah, let's go to the left back, please.
Hello, Madame. I'm Judy, from a communication student from Roskilde University. My question is right in this conversation right now. You started by acknowledging and complimenting a lot of the strengths here in Denmark and our society here. When you recently, it was a few years ago in the last government here, there was a Danish female Minister of Foreign Affairs, and I guess representatives from Canada, Russia, and Denmark and the States had a discussion about the Arctic area. This lady in this situation made a decision to prioritize family versus that meeting. I'm sure people in your positions are always having to make difficult choices, and I wanted to ask you, does work-life balance exist on your level of leadership? Or, I mean, as a role model for future generations, is it something we should just say that, okay, throw it out the baby with the bathwater? If you want to be at that level, your husband has to be your wife? Or can you say anything about making those kind of difficult situations? And yes.
Yes. Well, look, there's a double standard for women in the public eye. That's just a fact. And it's something that's getting somewhat better because people are more conscious of it, but it is certainly a challenge for young women with small children or with teenagers, which sometimes feel like the same if you're a mother. So when you are trying to really balance your family obligations with any work, but particularly work in the public eye, particularly at a very high level of stress and involvement, it takes enormous amounts of organization. It takes very supportive family members, in particular your spouse, to work out what the scheduling and all of that will be. But I would hate to see any young woman who wants to have a family decide she could not do that because she also wants to have a career. I think that would be a terrible mistake. That's just me personally. If you don't want to, that's your choice, and I fully support it. But if you want to and you think you can't do it or you can't manage it because you also want a career, you have to accept the fact you're going to have to make some kind of accommodation if you wish to be the best mother you can be, as well as fulfill the obligations of your profession. And I will be very honest with you. I mean, when my daughter was young, my husband was the governor of Arkansas, and I practiced law, but nothing at the level or intensity of what I did after she was older. And that was my choice. I have a lot of women whom I know who are the most superb balancers in the world, and they manage everything. But I knew that for me, focusing on my daughter during those early years was something I wanted to do and that I believed was my first priority. So as she got older, unfortunately, you know, you're not as needed. I used to sit around the White House waiting for a sighting. You know, I did have a lot more time and a lot more freedom, and could run for the Senate, could run for the presidency, could be a Secretary of State. That is one of the advantages of being a woman in the 21st century. is if you take care of yourself, you have a lot of options that our mothers and grandmothers could have never dreamed of. So I think you've got to figure out your own balance, but don't make a decision that you can't do one or the other until you try to see if you can find that balance.
Now you mention it, Madam Secretary, that you ran for president.
I did, yes.
Yeah, and that leads me to my... I think if we ran a quick vote in here, you would be elected.
No.
Well, my question is, you said in January that you're not going to continue as a Secretary of State, right, even though President Obama would get a second term. And that leads me to, it's actually a double question. What are you going to do then? And can you rule out completely that you're going to run for president in 2016?
Yes, I have said that many times. I'm really looking forward to pursuing other interests that I have. I've been so honored to serve with President Obama and feel incredibly privileged that I served at a time with so much change. The chapters yet to be written about what the conclusions of all this change will turn out to be. But I also think that for me, I've been at the highest levels of American political life for 20 years. And I would like to be able to just take a long walk. I'd like to be able to just travel without having a lot of official meetings associated with it. I'm just looking forward to exhaling and seeing what else lies ahead. And I've always been actively involved in philanthropic work, not-for-profit work. I want to continue doing that with an emphasis on, obviously, women and children for me, do some writing, some speaking. I'm looking forward to it. And who knows what I'll end up doing, but I'm excited by the possibilities.
And when you come back to Denmark as a private citizen, we would all be happy to give you holiday possibility.
Advice, would you please?
Advice, exactly.
Good.
We will, all of us.
Because I've looked at the map, and there's so many interesting places that you all are from. I was talking to the foreign minister about that earlier, and I had the great honor of being received by Her Majesty the Queen. And this is just, to me, a fascinating country. And so I am going to come back at some point, incognito. So if you see me on the street, go, I know that's you.
We're running a little close to the end, Madam Secretary, but if you're up for it, one more question
Sure,
from the crowd.
course.
Let's try if it's physically possible to go to row 2. If you have a long arm. You have. Very good.
Hello, Madam Secretary. Thanks so much for doing this. My name is Emma. I'm a study at the University of Copenhagen. My question is regarding female reproductive health in the American healthcare system. I know you're very passionate about healthcare, but this is a more personal question. Recently, there's been a lot of debate about female reproductive healthcare, not just on the presidential election level, but also in Senate and congressional hearings. It's been pretty shocking, especially seeing as Roe v. Wade was so long ago, and it's seen as a war we already fought, and now it feels like we're fighting it again. Do you think that these debates being held diminishes America's right to position itself as a leader on civil rights and be seen as such? Thank you.
Well, you're right. There has been and continues to be a debate over abortion coming out of the Roe v. Wade decision, of course, preceding that, but most intensely since then. And there has been a very concerted effort to undermine what we call a woman's right to choose, which I have always supported. But the debate has now taken another turn, which is to make contraception debatable. And that, to me, is really a regrettable development. The debate is over whether the comprehensive health care reform that President Obama championed and that was passed by the Congress will include insurance for women's reproductive health, including contraception. And the evidence on the benefits for contraception is overwhelmingly clear in the way that it does protect women's health, it does prevent unwanted pregnancies, and also enables women who shouldn't, for physical or mental reasons, become pregnant, avoid doing so. You know, it shouldn't be debatable, but the debate is over whether taxpayer dollars should go to subsidize health plans that provide contraception. And it is a political debate. I don't think it should or does affect our strong reputation and support for civil rights, but it is something that we're going to have to continue to contest within our political system. And, you know, it is troubling to me because it seems so focused on poor women, because middle class and upper income women will provide for their own health care. But if you're a young student, if you're a working mother, if you are someone who doesn't have the financial means to afford contraception, the first thing is to be covered by health care insurance, which is the Democratic Party position that covers everyone, and then to have what you need at every stage of your life included. So it's reflective of an ongoing debate within our political system, and we're going to have to, as you have debates within your political system, keep working it out, and in a democracy, hopefully people will make the right decision.
That's it, guys. Thanks for
sorry.
all your